Hello everyone. I decided I'd upload a few lighter videos in the meantime, just so I don't get too much out of the habit of uploading. If this video is a disappointment, then I'm sorry, I'm doing my best here. Recently, I've been playing on a Minecraft server with some of my friends, and we've been using villagers as a pretty efficient means of getting items. It should come as no surprise that some villagers are more equal than others, so I'm going to give my personal opinion about where each villager ranks. For each villager, I'll be displaying this table from the Minecraft Wiki as of Java Edition 1.18. So, Fletchers are a pretty good middle ground in terms of trades. First of all, they start out with a trade that gives you an emerald for every 32 sticks you trade in. This equates to 1 emerald for every 4 logs you have, which is a pretty great deal compared to many other villagers' first trades. While many trades only become worthwhile after you get a ton of discounts, this trade is useful right from the beginning of the game. That being said, Fletchers don't have much more to them. You can get some enchanted bows, if you're into that, and they're also a great source of tipped arrows before the Ender Dragon. Still though, the average player won't get much use out of these, so I'll rank Fletchers at a fair C tier. In comparison to Fletchers, Butchers have a lot less going for them. Basically every item they accept for emeralds is way more time consuming to get than it's worth. Meat requires breeding animals and waiting 20 minutes for them to grow up, and after 1.18, you have to go out of your way a lot more to get coal. So you better believe I'm not just giving that away for pocket change. Sweet berries are the only trade on here that isn't horrible, and they're the last trade you unlock. And it's not like they sell you anything useful in return. They only either sell meat that's very easy to get, or an unstackable food item that nobody wants. So, I'm putting this money laundering scheme of a villager in F tier. So, a few months ago, I probably would have put cartographers in C or D tier. The items they sell are more useful than those of butchers, and explorer maps are very useful in overcoming the rarity of certain structures. Recently, however, I was informed of something that changes everything. In short, you can buy glass from a librarian, craft it into glass panes, and sell those glass panes to a cartographer for a net profit of emeralds. This essentially turns them into money printers, allowing you to generate emeralds without needing any additional resources. But wait a minute, I hear you say. Minecraft is famously a game with absolutely zero exploits. How did Mojang let this slip through the cracks? The answer is that the trade doesn't work like this by default. It only becomes profitable once you get a discount on the glass panes by infecting and curing their cartographer. Still though, this is a way to get a stupid amount of emeralds by doing literally nothing. So, I think cartographers can barely get into A tier. Clerics are one of the more well-known villager professions, and for a good reason. They sell you a lot of valuable items at a relatively low cost. Lapis and glowstone can be a pain to collect normally, so having access to them by simply AFKing is a huge help. Even if you're trying to power through the game, clerics can still be a reliable but fast way of getting ender pearls. They're also the only real use of rotten flesh besides feeding dogs with it. Finally, they can give you bottles of enchanting, which are decent, but they'll probably give you less XP than just trading with your villagers will. Still though, clerics get A tier. Farmers are a pretty good general purpose villager. They're a good early game if you want to sell villagers their own crops for emeralds. They're also good late game, especially if you want golden carrots, which are an excellent food source. They also sell you suspicious stew, because insert Among Us joke here. Finally, farmers make the very process of villager grinding easier. They sell you bread, which can be used to breed villagers, and they also sell you apples, which are useful for golden apples when you don't feel like going around destroying a bunch of trees. So, farmers are the third A tier in a row. Upon looking at this table, you'll probably agree with me that fishermen are completely useless. They don't really offer any items of value. The most valuable thing they sell is an enchanted fishing rod, which I guess can be decent if it happens to have good enchantments, especially mending, but I don't see why you wouldn't just get a librarian or enchant one the conventional way. Look, I think fishing is cool, and I wish it played a larger role in the game, but this NPC still has absolutely nothing going for it. Oh, and there's one more minor thing that makes me extra spiteful towards fishermen. If you have barrels, which are an efficient and nice looking storage container, if you have them anywhere near your villagers, then, wait for it, poof! They're a fisherman now. And it's not like other workstations where you can just break it to relinquish your profession, because barrels will almost always have items in them that you don't want to go everywhere. So you have to put the villager in a boat, row them over to another workstation, box them in, and slowly wait for them to give up on being a fisherman, which, much like in real life, can take some time. With all this considered, fisherman goes in F tier. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't even know leatherworkers were a part of the game before I started writing the script. Looking at their trades, they look pretty much as bad as the butcher. However, there is a small amount of redemption. First of all, you've probably been eyeballing this saddle, which can be very useful early in the game. Finding saddles can be extremely luck-based, So if you want to use horses or striders for mobility, then this seems like a pretty good deal. I guess one other thing you could do is make a display set of leather armor, but that's about all I could think of. So yeah, leatherworkers aren't completely useless, but I still don't think they deserve above D tier. I'm not even going to make you wait in suspense for this one, because all of you already know that librarians go in S tier. Still though, I want to take a moment to emphasize how much librarians break this game. First of all, they can sell you almost any enchantment book in the game. They can even sell you certain treasure enchantments that you couldn't normally get in an enchantment table. Furthermore, enchantment books are present in the first slot, meaning you can keep breaking and placing down lecterns until you get a villager with the book you want. Now, the books are obviously the librarian's main attraction, but even without them, they'd still be a pretty good villager. They're a reliable way of getting name tags, and they can also sell you general utility items such as bookshelves and lanterns. Furthermore, they're the missing half of the cartographer's glass pane trade I mentioned earlier. Speaking of which, librarians can become money printers just by themselves. If you cure a librarian one time, it'll sell you bookshelves for 1 emerald each, but then also accept books for 1 emerald each. Since each bookshelf gives you 3 books, you can see where this is going. So yeah, librarians are basically just a weak form of creative mode, and if that isn't an S tier villager, then I don't know what is. Stonemasons are only really good for building blocks, so I haven't used them until recently. But now that I've started using them, I realized that there are some perks to them. Sure, they're not like librarians or clerics. You're not going to beat the game or rise to power because of them, but they can still be helpful for attaining building blocks. They're especially helpful for quartz and bricks, which can both be pretty annoying to harvest normally. Also, all of their trades are for only 1 emerald, so there's no need to infect them to get a discount, which is pretty rare among villagers. I feel like stonemasons are a pretty unique profession, and I wish I could rank them higher up. I did originally have them in A tier when I made the first draft of this list, but when it came time to write the script, I realized there was no way for me to justify that. Sure, they have a few trades that are helpful, but these terracotta trades are a pretty big letdown. You can only trade for 12 terracotta at a time, and unless you have 2 villagers to sell you the same color, this is just way too inefficient of a rate to be worth it. I feel like if you could actually buy terracotta in bulk, stonemasons would rank in at least B, and maybe in A if I was feeling generous. But as it stands, I think C tier is pretty fair. Shepherds can be very useful within a very limited scope. If you want a lot of a specific wool color, then they can be decent, but still not great. In the past, I used them to trade in white dye from my skeleton farm to get emeralds. But there isn't much need for that now that I know about the cartographer exploit. One legitimate use they can have is, surprisingly, netherite farming. They can sell you beds once they level up to expert, and beds can be used to clear out large spaces in the nether. So in conclusion, they have some uses, but not enough to set them apart from other villagers. Shepherds can also go in C tier. Although these are 3 separate NPCs, their traits are similar enough that I'm going to rank them together. They all trade equipment made of materials ranging from stone to diamond. Since diamonds themselves aren't renewable, getting your diamond equipment from villagers can be a great way of saving on actual diamonds. Because of this, I would rank them at A, but this trade is an absolute sin, so instead, they'll be going at a still respectable B. If I had to rank them individually, I would do it by how many diamonds they save me in the long run. So anyway, that was my villager tier list. If you disagreed with me, then that's excellent, because angry comments will give me a boost in the algorithm. I'm sure most of you don't actually have an opinion and are instead here to procrastinate something, but I mean hey, welcome to the club. Anyway, now I'll get back to some of the actually cool stuff I was working on. So thanks for watching, and cue the end screen.